What's going on, guys? Zuko back with another Dragonflight video. Hope you are all doing very, very well. I want to do another video on the Paladin. We're going to talk about Inflorescence today, another talent in the bottom of the tree, which I'm gonna spec into it in a second. But this is a really cool talent that I'm going to talk all about today. I'm going to show you some footage from a Freehold. I'm going to talk about why this is kind of a significant talent now, and there's been some people running it in their build. So let's just dive right in. Some more Paladin, Holy Paladin stuff going on here. Inflorescence of the Sunwell. Let's just read what it does first of all. Infusion of Light has one additional charge. Increases Greater Judgment's effect by an additional 50%. Reduces the cost of Flash of Light by an additional 30%. And causes every 3 casts of Holy Light to generate Holy Power. We don't really care about the Flash of Light or the Holy Light stuff. We're interested in the Greater Judgment effect. And I'm going to explain that whole thing now. Infusion of Light is a passive that we have as a Holy Paladin. It's our main kind of passive. What it does is when you critically strike with a Holy Shock, you get a buff. So if I press Holy Shock, didn't get it there. Got it there. I crit with a Holy Shock, gives me Infusion. Your next spell is empowered. Flash of Light costs less mana. Holy Light generates 2 Holy Power. And Greater Judgment prevents 100% more damage. Remember, Flash of Light, Holy Light, we don't really care about that. But this buff now applies to Judgment. It never used to apply to Judgment. It used to only apply to Flash of Light and Holy Light. Again, Blizzard making a big effort to bring the ranged Paladin style and the melee Paladin style and put them together in this buff, essentially, and have you can go both ways with it. So if you're in a raid, for example, you can get big value out of this with Flash of Light or Holy Light. If you're in Mythic Plus, you can get value out of Greater Judgment. What is Greater Judgment? Well, let's talk about it. It's a new talent right over here. It essentially just buffs your Judgment. It says this: Judgment deems the target unworthy, preventing the next 21,000 damage dealt by the target. So this is essentially, it's damage prevention every time you throw Judgment. Every time you throw it, you're blocking the next 21,000 damage that mob is going to do. That's the baseline effect of Greater Judgment. Okay? What happens if we get an Infusion proc? What is it going to do to our Greater Judgment? Well, there's our Infusion proc right there. What does it say now? Oh, it doesn't say it there. I have to actually throw it at the enemy. Give me a second. We got our Infusion proc. It's going to double the effectiveness of this Greater Judgment. So watch this. Judgment. Now this is preventing 43,000 damage. 43,000 damage. I guess it's hardly hard to see. Let me move my... give me 1 second here. Move this right here. Show this again. Let's get another proc. There's my Infusion proc, throw my Judgment, and you can see right there, if I scroll over, the next 43,000 damage is being prevented. So the baseline effect of Greater Judgment is 21,000 for me at my item level. This just scales with your item level, by the way. If you get an Infusion proc, it's going to double the effectiveness of that debuff. So now the mob, instead of me just preventing 20,000 damage, I'm going to prevent 43,000 damage. And right here, if it crits, it's now preventing 86,000 damage. That's the next point I wanted to make. If your Judgment crits, then the Greater Judgment damage prevention will also crit. So now it's preventing 86,000 damage. That is crazy. Okay, so that's the baseline Infusion buff. That's what we get as a Holy Paladin. What if we add in Inflorescence of the Sunwell? What does this do? Well, as the tooltip said, it's going to add an additional 50% to Greater Judgment's effect. Increases Greater Judgment's effect by an additional 50%. Remember, Greater Judgment is doing that damage prevention, and it's getting buffed by Infusion. The other thing that Inflorescence does is it gives you 2 charges of Infusion, this passive right here. So now we can actually stack it twice. And the Infusion buff lasts for about 14 seconds, which gives us enough time to throw 2 Judgments to get 2 Greater Judgment effects. So watch this. If I crit with my Holy Shock, I now have 2 Infusion buffs. I'm going to throw one of them. It's preventing 54,000 damage now, instead of 45,000 damage. Now my Judgment's coming off cooldown. I have another Infusion buff. I can throw it again. Now it stacks, and now it's preventing 162,000 damage. Now I'm going to try and fish for another Infusion proc. Okay? Didn't get it. Let's press Divine Toll. There, I got my Infusion proc. I'm going to throw Judgment again. There we go. Now I've got 173,000 damage prevented. And now I'm going to do some other stuff, yada yada. I'm going to throw my Judgment again in a second here. Throw it again. Now it's 189,000. So you're never going to stack it up like this high on a real mob, because that mob is going to be trying to do damage, and this prevention is going to be going down as you're doing that. But the point is, you now have 2 stacks. So there's Infusion. 14 seconds. I'm going to throw 1 Judgment over here. That's preventing 100,000 damage because I crit. It would be 54,000. Now I'm going to throw my second Judgment over here. Now I'm preventing 54,000 damage over here, and I have already prevented 108,000 damage over here. So this ends up adding up to a lot of damage prevented, and especially because this Inflorescence buff gives you 2 of the infusions. So you can throw, and you can fit 2 Judgments inside of the buff window, right? You press this, and you get 2 of these buffs. That's a 14-second buff. My Judgment cooldown's 8.4 seconds, so I can fit 2 Judgments in here and capitalize on both of these Greater Judgment bonuses. So here's what it does. It's taking the baseline effect of Greater Judgment, which again prevents damage. 21,000 damage prevented. Infusion takes that to 43,000. The Inflorescence buff with Infusion takes that to about 55,000 damage prevented. So at a baseline level, when I get my Infusion proc, my next 2 Judgments will prevent 55,000 damage each. That's without critting. As you saw, if the upfront Judgment crits, then the extra Greater Judgment damage prevention will also crit. So instead of 55,000, it becomes 110, 120,000. And as you saw, you can also stack it up on a boss, which, again, you'll never really do. Just the point is that it does stack. It's never, like, wasted. So what does this look like in reality? Well, oh, my things got all reset. My details got all reset. Well, let me show you an actual fight that I did on a Freehold. Let me jump in here. Let me show you exactly what's going on here on this Freehold. So here's a boss fight in Freehold. This is Sky Captain Craig, and he does a pistol shot at the beginning of his fight, right? At the very beginning of the fight, he's doing a bunch of pistol shots over and over and over again, and it just wrecks people. I can throw my Judgment. You can see right now he's got the Greater Judgment debuff on him right now. You can see that. So watch his next pistol shot. Watch when it goes off. This is a 21 Tyrannical Freehold. Okay? So he's going to fire a pistol shot right there. It did about 40% of this guy's health. That, and you can see my Greater Judgment buff is now gone. So on boss fights, and in particular something like Sky Captain Craig, a bunch of his pistol shots are going to continuously be, they're going to have their damage reduced, which is really nice because they end up doing sometimes 60% of an ally's health, and he fires them so quickly that it can just be really frustrating. You can see he has the Greater Judgment debuff on him again, and he did only about 30% of this priest's health instead of doing like 60%. So especially on boss fights, you can see the more Judgments I'm throwing, it just keeps continuously preventing the damage that this boss is going to end up doing. And over the course of this fight, it ends up doing about 18%. Over the course of this dungeon, it ends up doing about 18% of my overall healing. Greater Judgment accounts for 18% of my total healing. I'm going to try and find that right now. Just give me 1 second. Okay, here it is. I actually ended up finding it. For some reason, my details got all reset. But here is the overall healing for the plus 21 Freehold that I just did. And you can see Greater Judgment is at the top. Almost 18% of my healing, as I was saying. So, to me, this is really amazing. This is what sort of allows you... The Inflorescence buff allows you to make the Greater Judgment really, really strong here. I'm showing my cat to the stream right now. But Greater Judgment being my top heal, I'm not sure if I scroll over it right now. We're going to wait for a second to see if I do. Veneration from Hammer of Wrath, Holy Shock, Tears, Deliverance, Prism. It's all there, but this is a really interesting additional amount of healing that you can add. There we go. So I'm going to pause right there. You can see I had a crit for 220,000 damage. It says normal hits right here, but the reality is that my upfront Judgment ended up critting, and then it made that the damage prevented 220k. That's outrageous. It's really, really strong. So I think it's really important to see this and to recognize that this can be a tool that you add into your kit, and it's incredibly efficient, of course, because it allows you to do damage with Judgment and heal at the same time, right? Whenever you're throwing Judgment, you're doing extra damage, but you're also healing. And that is so important in Season 2, the ability to do damage and heal at the same time. So I think this is definitely a talent that can be worth taking just purely for the extra greater Judgment bonus. Again, takes it from about 44,000 to 55,000 damage prevented, and you get to throw 2 Judgments in the window, in the Inflorescence window. That is incredibly important, and again, it adds up to a lot of healing at the end of the day. That's a 21 Freehold that I did, and especially this week on Tyrannical boss fights, I think it's especially important because those bosses just do a lot of damage, and it doesn't stop just auto attack damage against the tanks. It just stops the next set amount of damage that the boss does or that any mob does. But bosses in particular, they do a lot of damage right now this week on Tyrannical, and if you can prevent any of that damage from happening, it feels really good. So let me know what you guys think about Inflorescence of the Summel, about Greater Judgment. Have you been experimenting with this talent at all? I would love to hear from you guys in the comments down below. I think this is a legit talent that you can take. And again, there are so many different builds for Holy Paladin. This is just one of the newest ones that I've sort of been playing with. So let me know what you think in those comments down below. I would love to hear from you all. As always, thank you guys so much again for watching. I love you all. I will see you in the next one.